Try to stop your heart from beating. Try to order your lungs to stop pulling oxygen. Try to tell your cells to stop repairing, stop fighting entropy, stop trying. You can't. Your body has already made the decision. It will try again. Every second, every breath, every heartbeat. And it's not just your body. Your mind does the same thing. No matter how many times you fail, no matter how exhausted you are, something inside you generates a new desire, a new plan, a new maybe this time. You are not choosing to persist. You are condemned to it. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer called this force the will to live. It's not a conscious choice. It's a blind, irrational drive that animates all living things. A force older than thought, older than reason, a metaphysical engine that runs without your permission. You can decide what you do, but you cannot decide what you want. And what you want, buried beneath all the exhaustion and disappointment and logic, is to continue. The only question is, will you move with dignity, or will you be dragged? Samuel Beckett understood this. In his novel, The Unnameable, the final book in a trilogy written in the aftermath of World War II, when Europe was still choking on ash, he gives us a narrator who exists in complete darkness. No body, no name. Maybe not even alive in any traditional sense. Just a voice. And this voice has a problem. It has nothing to say. The universe is empty. All stories have ended. There is no God, no audience, no point. Logic says, be silent. Accept the void. Stop. But the voice can't stop. It speaks. It babbles. It tells fragments of stories to no one. It questions its own existence. Page after page of compulsive speech with no destination. Why? Because silence is death. And the human organism, at its deepest level, is designed to deny death for as long as possible. We speak because we cannot bear the silence. We move because we cannot bear stillness. We try again because the alternative is to sit with full consciousness of our own meaninglessness. And human beings cannot do this for long without fragmenting. Near the end of The Unnameable, Beckett writes, I can't go on, I'll go on. It's not a contradiction, it's a law, the fundamental physics of consciousness. I can't go on is the rational assessment, it's the evidence, it's the exhaustion. I'll go on is the reality. It's what happens anyway. It's biology overriding philosophy. It's the will asserting itself without asking permission. You know this feeling. The moment when you said, I'm done, and meant it. The job you quit. The relationship you ended. The project you abandoned. You swore you'd never go back. You deleted the files. You burned the bridge. You told yourself this was final. And then weeks later, or months later, there you were again, applying for jobs in the same field, downloading the dating app, opening a new document, starting over. Not because you're stupid, not because you forgot the lesson, but because your consciousness generates new desires automatically, because your nervous system cannot tolerate stasis, because you are, at a biological and ontological level, a machine designed to overcome resistance. I know someone who tried to leave their profession 5 times. 5 complete exits. They trained for something else. They took jobs in different industries. They moved to different cities. And each time, within a year, they were back. Not to the same company, not to the same role, but to the same work. Because the work wasn't what they did, it was what they were. And Spinoza, the Dutch Jewish philosopher who ground lenses for a living while writing some of the most radical philosophy of the 17th century, had a word for this. He called it conatus, Latin for striving. He said every entity in existence has one primary drive, to persist in its own being. A rock tries to remain a rock. A tree tries to remain a tree. A human tries to remain human. But deeper than that, a fisherman tries to remain a fisherman. An artist tries to remain an artist. A parent tries to remain a parent. A teacher tries to remain a teacher. Conatus is not just survival. It's your essence trying to realize itself through you. It's not about wanting to live longer. It's about the specific shape of what you are trying to maintain its form against entropy. And when you stop trying, when you give up on the thing that expresses your essence, you're not just stopping an activity. You're committing what Spinoza would call a form of ontological suicide. You're killing what you are. And this is unbearable. More unbearable than failure. More unbearable than humiliation. More unbearable than loss. Because you can survive loss. But you cannot survive the death of your essence while your body keeps breathing. That creates a particular kind of hell. The hell of being alive in a technical sense, but dead in every sense that matters. This is why trying again is not optional. It's the only way to continue existing as yourself. There is an old man named Santiago. He lives in a small fishing village in Cuba. And when Ernest Hemingway's novel, The Old Man and the Sea, begins, Santiago has gone 84 days without catching a single fish. 84 days. Almost 3 months of waking before sunrise in the cold darkness. Preparing the lines with hands that know the work so well they could do it blind. Rowing out into the Gulf Stream while the village still sleeps. Spending entire days under the sun that burns through his shirt and turns his skin to leather. And returning every single evening with an empty boat. In the village, they call him Salau. It's the worst form of unlucky. It doesn't just mean you have bad luck. It means you are bad luck. That you carry it like a disease. That proximity to you will infect others. The other fishermen pity him, which is worse than contempt. The parents forbid their children from working with him. Even Manolin, the boy who loves him like a father, has been forced by his family to fish on a different, luckier boat. Santiago is alone. He is poor in a way that goes beyond money. His shirt is patched so many times it resembles a sail that has been mended forever. Each patch a different shade of sun-faded cloth. He eats what little he can beg or borrow. At night, he talks to himself because there is no one else. He sleeps in a shack with old newspapers for blankets. By any rational standard, Santiago should stop. Any cost-benefit analysis would show that fishing is no longer viable for him. The evidence is overwhelming. 84 consecutive failures. That's not bad luck. That's data. Any reasonable person would retire, take charity, accept that their time has passed, find some other way to survive. But on the morning of the 85th day, before the sun rises in the cold darkness that smells of salt and rotting seaweed, Santiago wakes up. He makes his coffee. He gathers his lines with the same careful attention he's given them for 40 years. And he goes to sea. Not to his usual spots where the water is safe and other fishermen work. He rows further, deeper, into waters where the ocean floor drops away into nothing. Into waters where the other fishermen don't dare go because the fish are bigger and the danger is real and the distance from shore is too far for old men in small boats. Why does he do this? Not because he has hope that day 85 will be different. Not because he's read something inspirational. Not because he believes in cosmic justice or the idea that persistence guarantees reward. He goes because he is a fisherman. And if he is not fishing, he is not Santiago. He is just an old man waiting to die. This is Spinoza's Conatus made flesh. Santiago does not fish to catch fish. He fishes because fishing is his essence trying to realize itself. The act of fishing is how his being persists in being. If he stays on shore, he doesn't just stop fishing. He ceases to exist in any meaningful way. He becomes a ghost, a shell, a man-shaped absence haunting his own shack. Beckett's voice speaks because silence is death. Santiago fishes because land is death. They are both expressing the same fundamental law, the imperative to continue. Not because continuation promises anything, but because the alternative is a form of suicide that the organism cannot permit while it still has breath. Identity is not built on results. Identity is built on action, on repetition, on the daily ritual of becoming what you are, regardless of outcome. You do not write because you publish books. You write because you are a writer, and writing is how that essence speaks. You do not love because the love is returned. You love because you are someone capable of love, and loving is how that capacity realizes itself. You do not create because people applaud. You create because creation is the act through which your nature expresses what it cannot say any other way. When the world tells you to stop, when the evidence screams that you should quit, the question is not whether you will succeed. The question is, who will you be if you don't try again? What remains of you when you remove the action that defines you? And the answer, according to both biology and philosophy, is nothing. Nothing that you would recognize as yourself. Santiago rose into deep water because deep water is where fishermen go. The 84 days of failure have not changed who he is. They've only tested whether he knows who he is. And on day 85, he proves he knows. He proves he would rather die as a fisherman who catches nothing than live as anything else. And then something happens. Far out in the blue water, beyond where any sane fisherman would go, beyond where the land is even visible, his line goes tight. Not the small tug of a normal fish, a massive pull, a weight that bends his rod. Not a normal fish, a marlin, a giant, larger than his boat, a creature of such size and power that hooking it is not fortune. It's the beginning of something that might kill him. And so begins the struggle. The fish does not surface. It swims deep and fast, dragging the boat behind it like a toy. Santiago cannot pull it in. The fish is too strong, so he holds the line, wraps it around his back, plants his feet against the side of the boat, and holds on. The first hour passes, then the second. Then the sun sets and night comes, and still the fish swims, pulling the boat further and further from land. Santiago cannot let go of the line even to sleep. He wraps it around his body and lets his weight hold it. The line cuts into his shoulders, his back, his hands, but he holds on. Day 1 becomes day 2. The sun rises again, and Santiago is still there, still holding the line, still being pulled by a fish he has never seen. His hands begin to bleed. The line has cut through the calluses he's built over decades of fishing. He wraps cloth around his palms, but the blood soaks through. The cloth becomes dark and stiff. His hands cramp. The muscles lock into position wrapped around the line. He cannot open his fingers anymore. They've become claws, frozen in place. He tries to flex them and the pain shoots up his arms like fire. But he holds on. He eats raw fish to stay alive. Small fish that come near the boat. He tears them with his teeth because his hands won't release the line. He chews mechanically, swallows without tasting. The fish is just fuel, just protein to keep the muscles working. He drinks water from a bottle he can barely hold. Some of it spills down his chin. He doesn't care. Day 2 becomes day 3. The sun sets again. Santiago has been in the boat for 2 days and 2 nights without sleep. His back is raw where the line cuts into it. His shoulders are on fire. His hands have gone past pain into a kind of numbness that's worse because he's not sure if they're still attached to his body or if they've become separate things, independent claws that no longer belong to him. He talks to the fish, not to himself, to the fish. Fish, he says softly in the darkness. I do not know if you are male or female, but I call you brother. You are strong and beautiful, and you pull well, but I will kill you before the day ends. And then quieter, or you will kill me. That would be fair, but I will stay with you until one of us is dead. This is not madness. This is something else. This is the moment when the struggle stops being about winning and becomes about something deeper. Santiago has begun to respect the fish, then to pity it, then to love it in a way that has nothing to do with sentiment and everything to do with recognition. He recognizes the fish's conatus, its own drive to persist in being. The fish is trying to remain free the same way Santiago is trying to remain a fisherman. They are both expressions of the same fundamental force, the will to live, the will to be, and they are locked together in a contest where only one can survive. But Santiago does not hate the fish. He loves it. He calls it brother. Because in this moment, the fish is the only thing in the universe that understands what he is. The only thing that is also trying with everything it has. The only thing that is also willing to die rather than surrender. The rational move is to cut the line. Save yourself. Go home. You've already proven you can hook a giant. You've already shown you're still capable. Let it go. But Santiago doesn't cut it, because cutting the line would be betraying the fish, betraying the struggle, betraying the only thing that's made him feel alive in 84 days. Schopenhauer said the will to live is blind and irrational. It doesn't promise happiness. It doesn't care about your comfort. It just wants to continue. And sometimes, like now, with Santiago being dragged further and further from shore by a fish that might kill him, the will demands suffering. It demands that you hold the line, even when holding it makes no sense, even when letting go would be logical, and you hold on anyway. Not because you're naive, but because the will doesn't ask permission. It asserts itself through you, and all you can do is decide whether you'll hold the line with consciousness and dignity, or whether you'll be dragged unconscious into the deep. On the third day, the fish finally tires. It begins to circle, to come closer to the surface. Santiago sees it for the first time. It is massive, purple and silver, beautiful in a way that makes his chest hurt. He has never seen anything like it. He pulls it closer, wraps the line, pulls again. His hands are useless now. They're not hands anymore. They're just broken things at the ends of his arms. But he uses his back, his shoulders, his legs. He uses everything he has left. And finally, after 3 days and 2 nights, he gets the fish alongside the boat. He takes his harpoon, raises it with arms that shake, and drives it into the fish's heart. The fish dies. Santiago lashes it to the side of his skiff. It is longer than the boat, the largest marlin anyone in the village has ever seen. This is vindication. This is fortune. This is proof that the 84 days were not wasted, that he is still Santiago, that he can still go out too far and come back with something impossible. He sets the sail for home. The wind is good. He'll be back by nightfall. He can already imagine it. The other fishermen gathering around, the measuring, the respect returning, the proof lashed to the side of his boat that he is not Salau, that he never was. But Hemingway does not write fairy tales. He writes about reality, and reality has a rule that Schopenhauer understood. The will to live is not just in you, it's in everything, including the things that hunt. The blood from the marlin trails in the water, a dark ribbon spreading behind the boat, and the sharks smell it. The first one appears an hour after Santiago starts for home, a mako shark, 10 feet long, blue and beautiful and built for killing, a perfect predator. Santiago sees it coming, sees the dorsal fin cutting the surface, sees the dark shape accelerating toward the boat. He knows what's about to happen. He knows, with the terrible clarity that comes from 40 years of fishing, that the fight has just begun and he has already lost. He could surrender now. Let the shark take its share. He already caught the fish. He already proved what he needed to prove. He could let nature take its course and arrive home safe with whatever's left. But he doesn't. He picks up his harpoon, plants his feet. And when the shark reaches the marlin, when it opens its mouth to tear into the flesh, Santiago drives the harpoon into its brain. The shark dies instantly, but its weight pulls the harpoon from Santiago's hands. It sinks into the dark water, taking his best weapon with it. Now Santiago is disarmed, his hands are destroyed. He has no harpoon. And more sharks are coming. He can see the fins. 3 of them, 4, drawn by the blood spreading in the water. They are not Marcos, they are Galanos, shovel-nosed sharks, scavengers. They come in fast and ugly, all teeth and efficiency. They hit the marlin from different angles, tearing, ripping. Santiago lashes his knife to an oar, uses it like a spear. He kills one. The blade breaks off in its body. Now he has no knife. He fights with the oar itself, clubbing at the sharks when they come close. The wood splinters. He fights with the broken tiller from the rudder. He fights in the darkness when the sun sets, and he can no longer see the sharks. He swings at the sounds of flesh being torn, the sounds of feeding. He swings until his arms won't lift anymore, until the tiller breaks completely, until he has nothing left but his broken hands. And still they come, through the night, wave after wave, taking the fish piece by piece. He can hear it happening, can hear his 3 days of suffering being devoured, can hear his proof disappearing into the bellies of sharks that didn't fight for it, that didn't earn it, that are just taking it because blood in the water is an invitation. When dawn comes, when the feeding finally stops, when Santiago looks at what's left of the marlin, he sees bones. Just bones. The head, the tail, the long white spine picked clean. 18 feet of skeleton lashed to the side of his boat. All the meat is gone. All the value is gone. All the proof that matters to the world is gone. From a pragmatic standpoint, from the perspective of outcomes and results and return on investment, Santiago has failed completely. 3 days of superhuman effort, 3 days of pain and bleeding and not sleeping and talking to a fish in the darkness. And he returns with garbage. If you measure success by what you can sell, Santiago caught nothing. If you measure success by what others can see, Santiago has nothing to show. If you measure success by whether the sharks took it, Santiago lost everything. But Santiago, looking at the skeleton in the grey morning light, says something to himself, quietly, just for himself, not for the world, not for anyone else who will never understand. He says, a man can be destroyed, but not defeated. And this is where everything turns. This is where the philosophy becomes something you can hold in your hands. Because these 2 words, destroyed and defeated, they sound similar, but they mean completely different things. Destruction is physical. Your body can break. Your work can be taken. Your dreams can be eaten by sharks that didn't earn them. This is destruction. It's external, it's material, and it's inevitable. Entropy destroys everything eventually. Every body fails. Every work crumbles. Every dream meets its sharks. But defeat is different. Defeat is spiritual. Defeat is internal. Defeat happens when you consent to the destruction, when you agree with it, when you say, I shouldn't have tried, when you say, I was a fool for hoping, when you say, the 84 days were right, and day 85 was the delusion. Defeat happens when you internalize the world's judgment, when you let the sharks eat not just the fish, but also the meaning of having fought for it. Santiago was destroyed. The physical result of his effort was taken from him. But he was not defeated, because he forced the universe to take the fish from him piece by piece. He made chaos work for its meal. He did not surrender. He did not cut the line. He fought with harpoon, then knife, then oar, then broken wood, then his useless hands. He fought until there was nothing left to fight with, and that refusal to consent, that insistence on making the sharks pay for every piece they took, that is what separated destruction from defeat. The outcome was the same. The fish was eaten. But the meaning was different, because Santiago chose how he lost. And this is the only freedom that biology and philosophy actually offer you. You don't get to choose whether you'll suffer. You don't get to choose whether the sharks will come. You don't get to choose whether entropy will destroy your work. All of that is guaranteed, but you do get to choose how you engage with the destruction. You get to choose whether you'll fight or surrender, whether you'll hold the line or cut it, whether you'll arrive home with a skeleton that proves you fought something worthy, or whether you'll arrive home with nothing because you never went deep enough to hook the giant in the first place. When Santiago arrives at the harbor, it's night. The village is dark. No one sees him tie up the boat. No one sees him step onto the dock with legs that barely work. No one sees him look back at the skeleton lashed to the side of his skiff one final time. He unties the mast, the wooden pole that holds the sail. It's heavy, heavier than it's ever been because his body is finished. But he lifts it onto his shoulder, and he begins walking up the hill toward his shack. He has to stop 5 times to rest. 5 times he puts the mast down, sits on the ground, waits for his heart to slow. 5 times he picks it up again and continues walking. He carries the weight of his failure on his back like a cross. He reaches his shack, drinks some water. His hands shake so badly he spills most of it. He doesn't care. He collapses onto his bed, covered with old newspapers. And he sleeps. Not the sleep of comfort. Not the sleep of success. But the sleep of total exhaustion. The sleep of someone who gave everything and has nothing left. The sleep of the utterly spent. And in his sleep, he dreams. He dreams of lions. Young lions he saw as a boy in Africa, playing on a beach at dusk, golden and vital and free, rolling in the sand, fighting in play, living without thought of failure or success or sharks, just living. Why does he dream of lions? Because his spirit is untouched. The sharks took the meat, they took the money, they took the proof that the world would recognize, but they could not take what he proved to himself. They could not take the fact that he went out too far, that he hooked the giant, that he held the line for 3 days, that when the sharks came, he fought them until he had nothing left to fight with. The skeleton lashed to his boat is not a monument to failure. It's a monument to capacity, to the ability to suffer for something, to the willingness to try in deep water, to the refusal to cut the line even when cutting it would be logical. In the morning, the other fishermen gather at the dock. They see the skeleton. They measure it from nose to tail. 18 feet. They stand in silence. They have never seen bones this large. They look at each other and they know. They know what Santiago fought. They know what it cost him. A tourist walks by. A woman. She sees the skeleton and asks a waiter what happened. Tiburon, he says. Sharks. She looks at the skeleton and says, I didn't know sharks had such beautiful tails. She thinks the skeleton is the shark. She thinks she's looking at the predator. She doesn't understand that she's looking at what remains of the prey, at what the sharks couldn't destroy completely, at the proof that something fought and suffered and refused to surrender. She doesn't understand. The world will never understand your battle. They will see the results and make their judgments. They will see the bones and think they know the whole story. They will make comments. They will offer condolences. They will give advice about what you should have done differently. But it doesn't matter what they see. It doesn't matter what they understand, because you're not fighting for their understanding. You're fighting to prove something to yourself. And Santiago, sleeping in his shack while the village wakes and measures and talks, he already knows what he proved. He proved he's still a fisherman. He proved the 84 days didn't change what he is. He proved he can still go out too far and hook something that might kill him and hold on anyway. That's what Spinoza's conatus looks like when it's put under maximum pressure. It's not success. It's not achievement. It's not the marlin arriving intact. It's the refusal to stop being what you are, even when being what you are costs everything. Santiago persisted in being a fisherman, not because fishing was profitable, but because fishing was his essence. And the skeleton is proof that his essence survived contact with chaos. It survived the sharks. It survived the loss. It survived the destruction. And this brings us back to where we started. Back to Beckett's paradox. Back to the voice in the darkness that cannot stop speaking, even though there's nothing to say and no one listening. Santiago, sleeping in his shack, is living proof of what Beckett meant. He can't go on. The evidence is clear. The fish is gone. His body is broken. He's 84 days of failure, plus 1 day of catastrophic loss. Logic says stop. Dignity says rest. Wisdom says accept. But he'll go on. Because he's a fisherman, and fishermen fish. Because his conatus demands it. Because Schopenhauer's will to live asserts itself without asking permission. Because in a few days, when his hands heal and his back stops screaming, he'll prepare his lines again. He'll row out again. Maybe he'll catch something. Probably he won't. But that's not the point anymore. The point is the action itself. The daily ritual of being what you are regardless of outcome. The persistence of essence, even when essence produces nothing the world values. Beckett gives us the theory. I can't go on, I'll go on. Santiago gives us the practice. Destroyed, but not defeated. And now, the question turns to you. Because you're not in a boat in the Gulf Stream. You're sitting where you are, and you're tired. Existentially tired. Not the tiredness that sleep fixes. The exhaustion of existing, of waking up every day and having to be someone, of carrying the weight of your own consciousness. You've had your 84 days. Maybe you're in them right now. The applications that go unanswered. The project that won't launch. The relationship that won't heal. The body that won't cooperate. The dream that stays a dream no matter how much effort you pour into it. And you've tried. You've tried so many times that trying has started to feel like insanity. Like you're the only one who doesn't understand that the definition of madness is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Like you're Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the mountain except you don't even get the dignity of mythology. You're just someone who keeps trying and keeps failing, and the world is running out of patience with your persistence, and the rational part of your brain is saying what it should say: stop. The evidence is overwhelming. Cut your losses. Accept reality. Move on to something more realistic, something safer, something that doesn't require you to go out so far. But there's another part, deeper than rationality, older than logic, the part that Schopenhauer called the will, the part that Spinoza called conatus, the part that Beckett's voice represents, and that part is preparing to try again. Not because it believes this time will be different, not because it has new information that changes the odds, not because it's naive about the sharks, but because trying is what it does. Because you are not just a person who wants things, you are a configuration of matter and consciousness whose fundamental nature is to strive, to persist, to continue being what you are. And what you are is not defined by your results. It's defined by your actions, by the thing you keep doing, even when doing it makes no sense, even when the evidence says stop, even when the sharks have already eaten 84 days of effort. You keep doing it because stopping would mean you are no longer you. It would mean ontological death while your body keeps breathing. And that, according to both biology and philosophy, is unbearable. More unbearable than failure. More unbearable than the sharks. More unbearable than coming home with bones. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but what if I'm wrong? What if I'm not Santiago going out on day 85? What if I'm just delusional? What if I'm the person who should stop but won't admit it? What if my persistence isn't noble? What if it's just pathology? And that's a fair question, because persistence is not always virtue. Sometimes it's obsession. Sometimes it's the inability to accept reality. Sometimes it's the gambler who keeps betting, because admitting the money is gone would mean admitting they wasted years. So how do you know the difference? How do you know if you're Santiago, or if you're just someone who can't let go? And the answer, uncomfortable as it is this: you don't know. Not for certain. Not while you're in it. Santiago didn't know on the morning of day 85 whether he was a fisherman proving his essence or an old man in denial about his decline. He only knew after. After the marlin, after the sharks, after the skeleton. You only know in retrospect. And retrospect requires that you try, that you go out too far, that you hook the giant, that you hold the line and fight the sharks and come back with whatever survives. Only then do you know what you were doing. But here's what you can know now. If you stop, you'll never know. If you cut the line before you go deep enough, if you stay in shallow water where it's safe, if you let the fear of being wrong prevent you from trying, you guarantee that you'll never have an answer. You guarantee that you'll reach the end of your life with the question still open, with the what if echoing in the silence. And that uncertainty, that permanent openness, that's its own form of death. The death of never knowing what you were capable of never testing your essence against something worthy, of never finding out if you could hold the line for 3 days. Santiago chose to find out. He chose to risk being the delusional old man. He chose to risk the sharks. He chose to risk coming home with nothing. Because the alternative, staying on shore and never knowing, was worse than any possible failure at sea. And when you frame it that way, when you understand that trying again is not about guaranteeing success, but about refusing permanent uncertainty, the choice becomes different. It's not about naive hope. It's about which kind of suffering you prefer. The suffering of trying and failing, or the suffering of never having tried and spending the rest of your life wondering, Both are suffering. Schopenhauer was right about that. The will to live guarantees suffering, but you get to choose which flavor. You get to choose whether you want the sharp pain of the line cutting your hands or the dull ache of the unopened question. Santiago chose the line. Beckett's voice chose to speak. And their suffering had meaning because it was chosen consciously. It was suffering in service of essence rather than suffering in avoidance of risk. What nobody tells you about trying again is that it's not about building towards success. It's about constructing something inside yourself that the sharks can't eat. Every time you try, every time you fail, every time you get back up, you're building an internal skeleton, a structure of resilience, a proof of capacity. The first time you tried and failed, it destroyed you. You couldn't get out of bed for days. The second time it hurt, but you recovered faster. The third time, you already knew the sharks were coming and you fought them anyway. The fourth time, you fought them better. Each iteration builds something, not success, but dignity, not achievement, but character, not results, but essence. This is what Beckett meant in another work, Worstwood Ho, when he wrote, "Ever tried, ever failed, no matter. Try again, fail better." He's not promising eventual success. Read it again, fail again. He's guaranteeing more failure, but qualified failure. Fail better. Each time you try, you can fail with more consciousness, more dignity, more understanding of what you're doing and why. The first failure was collapse. You didn't see it coming. It crushed you. The second failure was resistance. You knew it might happen and you tried to prevent it. The third failure was a fight. You knew it would happen and you fought it anyway. The fourth failure was a war. You knew it would happen, you knew you'd lose, and you made it expensive. Each time you fail better. Each time the skeleton you build becomes more magnificent. Not because the outcome changes, but because your relationship to the outcome changes. Because you transform from someone who fails and is defeated by it, to someone who fails and is merely destroyed by it. And destroyed is not defeated. Santiago taught us that. Destroyed is physical. Destroyed is temporary. Destroyed is something that happens to your body while your spirit remains intact. Defeated is when you let the destruction define you, when you internalize it, when you agree with it, when you say the sharks were right to take the fish and you were wrong to hook it in the first place. Santiago refused that agreement. He looked at the skeleton and saw proof, not failure. He looked at his broken hands and saw evidence of having held something worth holding. He looked at his exhaustion and saw the price of having tried in deep water. And because he refused to be defeated, because he maintained the distinction between what happened to him and what he is, he could sleep. He could dream of lions. He could wake up, and eventually, when his body healed, he could prepare his lines and row out again. Not because he's stupid, not because he didn't learn, but because he's a fisherman. And fishermen fish. That's what conatus means. That's what the will demands. That's what the voice in Beckett's darkness cannot stop doing. You're going to wake up tomorrow. This is not optional. Your biology has already decided. The sun is going to rise whether you're ready or not. Your heart is going to beat. Your lungs are going to pull air. Your consciousness is going to generate desires and plans. And that quiet voice that says, maybe this time. Schopenhauer's will doesn't ask permission. Spinoza's conatus doesn't wait for you to feel ready. The imperative to continue is not a choice you make. It's a force that moves through you. The only choice you have is whether you'll engage with it consciously or whether you'll pretend you're not trying while you try anyway. You can do it badly, resentfully, while lying to yourself that this is definitely the last time, while apologizing to everyone for still hoping, while making jokes about your own persistence to soften the embarrassment of caring about something. Or you can do it with the dignity of someone who understands what they're doing, who knows the sharks are already in the water, who knows the skeleton might be all they bring back, who knows that 3 days of holding the line might end with nothing the world recognizes as valuable, and who tries anyway, not because trying guarantees anything, but because trying is the only act through which your essence can speak. Because conatus is not about winning, it's about persisting in being what you are. Because I can't go on is true, and I'll go on is also true, and you live in the paradox between them. Santiago is going to wake up. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe he needs a week to heal first. But he'll wake up and he'll feel it. The pull. The line going tight somewhere inside him. The part of him that is a fisherman preparing to fish again. And he'll have a choice that's not really a choice. He'll remember the 84 days. He'll remember the sharks. He'll remember everything he lost. And he'll prepare his lines anyway. Because the alternative is to stop being Santiago. And that's the one thing his conatus cannot permit while he's still breathing. Beckett's voice is going to speak again, into the darkness, with no one listening. For no reason that makes sense. Because the voice speaks. That's what it is. That's what it does. And silence, even rational silence, even justified silence, is still death. And you're going to try again. Maybe not today. Maybe you need to sleep first. Maybe you need to dream of lions. Maybe you need to let your hands heal and your back stop screaming. Maybe you need to sit with the skeleton for a while and understand what it proves. But when you wake, when the exhaustion has transformed into something harder, when the wound has scarred over into something you can use, you'll feel it. The pull, the imperative, the will asserting itself, the conatus preparing to strive again, and you'll prepare your lines. You'll check your equipment. You'll look at the deep water, and you'll know the sharks are there. You'll know the odds. You'll know that 3 days of suffering might end with bones, and you'll go anyway. Not because you're a hero, not because you believe in fairy tales about persistence paying off, not because someone told you to never give up, but because the only alternative is to stop being what you are. And that, according to biology and philosophy and the lived experience of every person who has ever tried and failed and tried again, is the one thing you cannot do while you're still breathing. The only choice you have is to try again. Not to win, not to succeed, not to bring home meat that the world can measure and price and respect, but to persist in your being, to express your essence, to hold the line even when the sharks circle, to bring back the skeleton, to prove to yourself that you can still go out too far, to sleep the sleep of the utterly spent, to dream of lions, and then, when dawn comes, to wake up and prepare to do it all over again. Santiago knows this. Beckett knows this. And now you know it too. The line is in your hands. The deep water is calling. The sharks are already circling. Try again.